Hey everyone, I'm Erica and this is a video on second part in the gelatin series that I'm doing. In this one we're going to make chocolate, coconut milk, gelatin pudding. So what you'll need is a can of coconut milk. I've already opened my can. I have some in the pot because we have to actually heat it up. This is an extra step that we didn't have to do in the mango pudding because we just had the warm water. This time we're going to actually be, that's why we're in my teeny tiny kitchen, heating the coconut milk up. So I put just about a third of a cup, half a cup into the pan, and then the rest of it into my Magic Bullet blender. We're also going to use cacao powder, gelatin. I'm going to put in cinnamon because I love cinnamon in everything. You can put in any other flavorings that you want. If you want to put in some essential oil, some mint or orange. I've put in cayenne before, a little bit of cayenne, but my 8-year-old doesn't approve when I do that. And you can put any medicinal herbs or powders in as well. If you have any mushroom powder laying around, that could be really nice in there, or chlorella, as long as you don't use too much. But chlorella and chocolate are a really great combination. When I was making raw chocolates every morning for breakfast, I often put chlorella in, and it was really nice to add in there. And other things we're going to use, salt, always, and some, this is a special ingredient, MCT oil or XCT oil if you're using the Bulletproof brand. The other thing that I would love to put in, but I don't have any right now, is colostrum. I did that the first time I made this recipe, put in some colostrum, and it was so even more thick and rich and creamy and amazing, and even has even more benefits with all the colostrum in there. So good for your immunity. So this coconut milk is nice and warm. I'm just going to warm it up a little bit again. And then once it's really warm, that's when you're going to put the gelatin in. So until then, oh, I know what else we need. We need a sweetener. I'm going to use stevia. You can use whatever sweetener you usually use. This is the Now brand. This is the one that I always use. You can use, stevia, xylitol, or erythritol if you're using either of those. Honey, I feel like would be a bit too strong and a bit too thick, but you could experiment with that if you really love honey. Maple syrup, coconut sugar, sugar. I forget about that one sometimes. So I just put in about half a teaspoon, quarter teaspoon of salt. You can actually, when you're making chocolate, you can go quite heavy on the salt. I'm always surprised. And now I'm going to put in some cinnamon, about between a teaspoon and 2 teaspoons. I tend to go heavy on the cinnamon. Stevia. So this is the teeny tiny spoon that comes in this stevia. I don't even know, it's like a 1/16 of a teaspoon or something. And I find it really challenging when people write stevia recipes and they'll say 2 packets of stevia or 1 scoop of stevia, but they don't really specify. In this case, it's such a tiny little spoonful that it's hard to specify. I use 2 of these tiny little spoonfuls, and stevia is really something that you end up experimenting with and finding out what the right amount is for you. And that's all I'm going to put in for now while it's heating up. And I'm just going to use a fork. If you have a whisk, you can use a whisk. So you definitely want your salt, your sweetener, your coconut milk in here, and then you could put in the cacao powder now, or you can wait. I'm going to just wait. And once it's warmed up, you would take it off the heat, and then we'll add the gelatin. And you want to have your spoon, your fork or your whisk ready, at the ready for when this goes in. So this is my tablespoon that I use for many different things, and it's always covered in powders. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons in because I like it nice and thick and super pudding-y. And also you just get more gelatin, more of the good stuff in there. So then right away it starts to clump up. That's why you want to be ready to do your whisking, and trying to get out as many clumps as you can with the gelatin. Although I find it's not It's a bit weird if you get some clumps in your pudding. If you're just making it for yourself or for your family, it's not such a big deal when you know that that's what it is. It's the good stuff. The gelatin is just a bit like, a bit extra chewy, those little bits and bunches. Okay, so now we have this nice, so you can see some clumps on the fork there, but otherwise it's pretty much dissolved. That's how quick it is. So we're going to take this to the blender bowl, which is right here, which is plastic, so I'm not going to put it on this hot stove. There, I'll go on this side. So you're going to add this to, this is the remains of the coconut milk that I already poured in there. It's a bit noisy, sorry. And scrape out as much as you can with a spatula if you have one, or a spoon. And this part is the best part because it's all the flavoring. It can be if you put the cacao in there, but it's like super concentrated flavoring because it's just in a portion of the coconut milk. Okay. So now we will add cacao. This is a raw cacao powder. If you can get Giddy Yo-Yo cacao powder, that's my absolute favorite one. Super creamy, really good. So I'm going to put in, and this is another one that you can really experiment on, depending on how dark you like your chocolate. I like mine quite dark, so I'm going to put in 3 of these big scoops, which is probably about a 1/4 cup. Which now that I'm saying that out loud, I realize is a lot, but that's okay. I can handle it. And then the XCT or MCT oil, and this one you put in, let's say that much, between a tablespoon and 2 tablespoons. You cannot overdo it on the MCT oil. It's good stuff for you, and especially if you're having MCT oil regularly, then you don't have to worry too much about overdoing it, which you might have to just be aware of when you start using it, because sometimes, because it's an oil, and oils are used in oleation, which is like in Ayurveda, they'll get you to eat ghee for a week or 2 weeks to get everything ready for the cleanse that's coming. So it oils up your insides to make everything nice and smooth and pass out. So if you don't know that that could happen, then it can be a little disconcerting. Okay, here comes the noisy part. Noisy but very brief. Just some coconut milk and some powders. And then you have this nice bubbly, foamy, I don't know how well you can see it, pudding ready to be put in the fridge. And you can check it in about an hour. It sets quite quickly, and that will be dependent partly on the amount of gelatin you put in. So I put in lots of gelatin this time, so it'll set nice and quickly. And sometimes when I'm feeling particularly impatient, which I can do when there's chocolate involved, then I'll put some in the in the freezer, like one small bowl in the freezer, and check it after about 20 minutes, and then every 10 to 20 minutes based on its consistency at the time. So try it out. You do need to heat up the coconut milk. I tried it once without heating up the coconut milk. It was a disaster. It was really grainy and gross and was not pudding at all. It thickened a tiny bit, but just didn't work. And experiment with your flavors, cinnamon, cayenne, whatever. I've put turmeric in before because I try to put turmeric in everything. That was pretty nice. And rose, I put rose extract in as well, and that's a nice combination, rose and chocolate. So try it out, tell me how it goes, and enjoy.